This year, we witnessed an incredible hockey phenomenon, explosive growth. In nature, this refers to when something experiences a favorable shift in its environment. For a bee, maybe a neighborhood plants wildflowers. More flowers equals more bees. And for hockey players, their new environment wasn't just a new team, but a new role. In the several seasons before being acquired by Vegas, these 4 players would average 27 points per season. And since joining Vegas, they have averaged a combined 59 points, which is over 2 times the production. You might ask, why? Is there something in the air in Vegas? What is going on? And the answer is opportunity and culture. This brings us back to the Vegas Golden Knights, specifically the 2017 expansion draft. Gone were the days of expansion teams, designed to be doomed from the start. It was basically that episode of South Park where Ike plays the Detroit Red Wings. No, these new owners paid a pretty penny. They want a competitive team. So this time around, rules have changed. Not only did Vegas get to select from 30 teams versus 20 from back in the day, but get this, teams went from protecting 18 plus players per team to being able to protect 11 at the most. And for George McPhee, he was tasked with a wicked problem. The Vegas Golden Knights at this moment was a blank slate. No bad contracts weighing them down. So, what direction would you take? Would you focus on goal scorers? Shut down defense? Goaltending? How about none of the above? Because this season, the Vegas Golden Knights would take what is perhaps the most untraditional route to a cup win in NHL history. Unlike past champions, where teams progress over a decade of drafting and roster management in hopes of getting past the hump, no, erase that script. Out of these 3 players, based on their stats, position, age, who would you choose? He has the most points, but is older. He is the youngest, but has put up the most goals. Okay, now these 3, not a bad selection. 30-goal guy and a 25-year-old 37-point scorer. Okay, now time to grade your guys' scouting. If you chose option A, you were right, which of course was William Karlsson. Next, if you chose option B and C, my god, you were correct. NHL teams in this pre-pandemic era were very aggressive when it came to keeping their existing core together. Thus, George McPhee would use this as leverage, as he would commit robbery on many NHL teams. Because to put this into perspective, Vegas would get paid a 1st and 2nd round pick in exchange for the Vegas Golden Knights selecting William Karlsson in the expansion draft, who would go on to score 40 goals the next season. So a 1st, 2nd, and a 40-goal scorer. Not bad. Thanks, Columbus. And then it would happen. George McPhee and the Knights would leverage a deal with the Panthers. And get this, where they would receive Riley Smith in exchange for Vegas having to select Jonathan Marchessault during the expansion draft. Playoff MVP Jonathan Marchessault now. This man was just thrown into the deal. And Florida did this to protect Alex Petrovic and Nick Bjugstad. Is that not one of the most absurd and ironic deals you have ever heard? And when you add these 2 trades to the same graph, you start to get an idea of some of the earth-shattering trades Vegas made. But what if I were to tell you, these trades right here is just the tip of the iceberg. Here's a list of assets Vegas received in return for expansion draft consideration, because what I'm about to tell you might just blow your mind. Specifically, this one with the New York Islanders, as they would give Vegas a 1st and 2nd in exchange for protection rights, so that Vegas could not select Calvin DeHaan or Josh Bailey. This is where things get wild. With that 1st round pick, Vegas would select Eric Brandstrom, an intriguing, smaller-framed offensive defenseman, who they would then flip for, get this, Mark Stone, their captain and franchise player. Vegas got Mark freaking Stone for not selecting Calvin DeHaan in the expansion draft. But the insanity doesn't stop there. George McPhee would leverage a deal with Anaheim for Shea Theodore, a top 10 defenseman. Hell, Vegas would even acquire Chandler Stevenson, a man who went from putting up 11 points to being a 65-point, big-time playoff performer, which once again emphasizes George McPhee's innate ability to find breakout players. And all he had to do is pay a 5th round pick. Imagine your team trades a 5th round pick for a player. Most fans won't even bat an eye. Vegas fans fans are like, nice, another 40-goal scorer, let's go. And at first, I thought this was a fluke. However, breakout player after breakout player has left me with this conclusion. George McPhee is a pro scouting, developmental genius. Getting a breakout player happens to a team every once in a while. But to find hidden gem after hidden gem after hidden gem after hidden, which has a strategy, blows the traditional route out of the water, using solely trades and free agency to build a cup roster, and not only that, making massive mistakes, fixing those mistakes with even bigger trades, goes against every fundamental idea about building an NHL team. It's high risk, but then again, is that not the Vegas way? In fact, here's a list, the last 5 Stanley Cup champions, and how many players they drafted who played on their team the season they won. Okay, so teams like Tampa had the most at 15, whereas the Vegas Golden Knights had 4, only 4 drafted players on their team, ladies and gentlemen. So, let's think about this for a second. When a GM gets selected to take over a team, they are hired based on their vision. Maybe a GM's specialty is drafting and internal development, so their vision would be focused on youth, prospects, and drafting high. However, a vision doesn't happen overnight. It can take 5 years to know if a GM is making the right decision. The Vancouver Canucks are a great example, as Jimbo Slice, before getting fired, racked up so many bad trades and signings. By the time Vancouver realized, it was too late. So when Vancouver hired Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford, their job up until now has been damage control. If the previous GM messed up badly enough, the new general manager might have to spend years trying to undo and compensate for past mistakes. So I'll ask you this, at that point, if you are the GM, are you really following your vision? No, you are following a vision of fixing another man's mistakes, which has led to the brand new NHL phenomenon. Expansion teams in this new era have been able to outperform existing NHL teams who have been rebuilding for a decade. It is absolutely absurd. In fact, the Vegas Golden Knights and now Seattle Kraken, who have existed for a grand total of 8 years, have more playoff wins than the Vancouver Canucks and Toronto Maple Leafs combined. Throughout the last 20 years, countless attempts in rebuilds, high-end draft picks, somehow has amounted to less success than 2 brand new expansion teams. So if you were George McPhee, someone who has a proven track record of finding and acquiring hidden gems, being the GM of an expansion team is a match made in heaven. No fixing past mistakes. You have a blank slate. So let's address this elephant in the room. Last year, I made a video roasting Vegas from some of the hilariously bad trades they made, and let's be honest, some of these trades are brutal. However, you have to give credit where it's due, because regardless of the bad trades, George McPhee's scouting prowess not only compensated tenfold for his mistakes, but the Vegas high-risk strategy won the most bizarre championship in NHL history. This will, without a doubt, have a trickle effect, as many NHL teams going forward are going to question the traditional route. Thank you so much for watching, and if you guys did not know, I recently launched a hockey card store where you can buy custom collection boxes made solely by me that guarantee amazing cards. As of today, I just released a guaranteed auto RTH pack where you're chasing a Cale Makar rookie. So if you want to support the channel, the link will be in the description down below. The channel is almost back on track. I tried, but I feel like I didn't explain myself very well in the last video. But basically, every couple years, I try to reevaluate how I make videos. Because for so long, you know, I make a video, I upload it, and then that same day, I think to myself, if I just added this part, which doesn't help to see 5 comments that are like, Rob, you idiot boy, you forgot this. With that being said, I am pumped for the future of this channel. And as always, thanks for watching.